The Ministry of Health has been unable to perform any non-injury related surgery since the 30th of March because of the sheer number of injuries. And so cancer surgery, emergency and elective work has been put on hold.
As many of you know, 95% of Gaza's water is undrinkable. Electricity comes 3 to 4 hours a day. The ILO, International Labour Organization, has just published a report a few weeks back saying that Gaza's unemployment rate at 66% is the highest in the whole world. Many of the children suffer from stunted growth and anemia as a result of the collapse of the purchasing capacity of the majority of families. It was immediately obvious that the Israeli army was using fragmentation bullets, and these bullets are designed to explode upon impact in the body, fragmenting into tens and tens of smaller shrapnels, each one acting as a projectile of its own, causing massive tissue damage, injuries to nerves and vessels, and in many cases necessitating immediate amputation. And the injuries are absolutely devastating. The majority of these young men will be left after almost 1.5 to 2 years of repeated surgeries, up to 7 surgeries, will be left with some disability.
One of my cousins graduated the same year as me. We are the same age. His name is also Mohammed. He studied mathematics at Al-Aqsa University, and I was one time, I was walking to work, and in the camp we have this, the market. Every Monday we have a market where people, it's like a bazaar. You just go and buy stuff. And then I see my cousin there, and he was, selling shoes. And he has a bachelor degree in mathematics. But that's, when we talked about it, that's the only way for him to make a living and not be a burden to his parents. I think one of the questions that Dr. Ghassan raised was why do they keep coming back and protesting after even they're getting injured? This is one of the questions I've always been asked, with a different phrasing. People would ask me here, why do they throw stones at army jeeps and soldiers in the West Bank, right? And it's the same reason why people protest in Gaza, and they keep coming even after they're getting injured. And to me, it's all a matter of agency. Because the occupation is all about control. They want you to know that they are in control. They want you to know that they decide how you live your life. And this is something we faced personally when we tried to come here for grad school, and they wouldn't give us permits to leave until after, tries and tries of doing it. Eventually, after a lot of pressure, we made it. But it's all about control, and for us, it's all about agency. When you see like people throwing stones in the West Bank, and then an army jeep retreats, right? And that's a symbolic thing,
25 years ago, just maybe 7 minutes from Georgetown, Ishaq Rabin and Yasser Arafat shook hands, and we all remember this powerful image. Oslo Accords will bring peace. Oslo Accords will solve the whole conflict. And 25 years old, in 2 weeks, I'm turning 26, and analysts usually describe people who were born in the 90s as Oslo babies or Oslo kids, but these kids became generations and generations after generations, and they ask, what is that we were born in the age of peace, but we didn't see anything, like we didn't live anything, we didn't see it, we want a new alternative.
This administration has decided to really starve Palestinians wherever they are from all assistance, and to almost decapitate the relationship between the Palestinian question and the United Nations.
But you have to think back about South Africa and apartheid at that time. The United States was one of the biggest supporters of the regime at the time. When the whole world was when the support for the boycott of the apartheid regime was happening, the U.S. was one of the last countries to actually do it. But it didn't happen until it was the pressure from the people grew to a point where. The pressure from the people grew to a point where the administration had to respond to the demands that the people demanded, that this is wrong and you have to stop supporting the apartheid regime.
For me, the Palestine Authority in Ramallah and the West Bank represents Palestine's version of the Vichy government. For me, the concept of national unity is a construct of political elites. For me, national unity for the Palestinians is when the Palestinian refugees in Lebanon, in South Lebanon, in Beirut, in Syria, in the refugee camps in Gaza, in the refugee camps in the West Bank, Palestinians fighting against repeated demolitions in the Negev or in the Galilee feel that they are part of the same national liberation movement, and that the onslaught on one is an onslaught on the other, i.e. that the Palestinian struggle is the sum of the struggle of every Palestinian. That is Palestinian national unity.
Ghassan alluded to the historical longevity of the struggle and Gaza's historical role in this. It's striking that it's been 100 years now, from 1918 to 2018. And these 100 years for the Palestinians are bookended by two extraordinary figures who represented the most powerful countries in the world at that time, virtually. Arthur James Balfour in England in 1917-18, who decided that the Palestinians don't exist, and therefore their land could be given away to people who wanted to create a Jewish state, which the British government supported. And 100 years later, Jared Kushner, who believes that the Palestinians don't have any rights. They're not human beings. It's not that they don't own the land, that they're not human, they don't deserve to exist, that they should disappear.
I do have a plan. One of the things that people can do here to help, and I feel that's morally right to do too, is to join the BDS movement, and that's my own opinion. People might disagree or agree, but that's one of the ways that you can contribute as a person. Like you can boycott settlement products or Israeli products. You can advocate for your school to divest from companies that benefit from the occupation. You can push for associations to do the same, and that's one way to contribute. And also, you can pressure artists not to go to Israel and perform and whitewash the crimes that they do.
It's becoming more and more conceptually difficult to imagine a solution, since we have been heading in the opposite direction for such a long time. We're really facing the opposite direction, and to the point where one's even imagination is failing one, because you can't even remember the last time you felt that you were looking in the right direction that would lead to a solution. For me, decolonizing Palestine is the solution to the Palestinian tragedy, and the shape and form that the decolonization of Palestine takes is a mere detail. Once you take the stand that all people are created equal and deserve an equal chance at this one life that they will lead, then the political manifestation of that decision theoretically will lead us to the right direction. At this moment, there is no glimmer of hope. The joke in Gaza was that the light at the end of the tunnel is no longer lit because of the electricity cuts. And so, literally, for me, conceptually, that light is no longer shining. There's no electricity going to that light.
This is a very complex situation, which is anchored essentially in one core dynamic, which is that the Palestinian people, in the eyes of many of their adversaries, simply have no rights.